Once upon a time, in the magnificent town of Argos, lived a rich and powerful king who had all that a man could wish for. Power, glory, gold, a fine reputation. He wanted for nothing. Nothing except a child, a son. King Acrisius decided to go to the Temple of Delphi, where the Pythia predicted the future. Perhaps he'd forgotten that one should be wary of oracles. "What must I do to have a son?" asks Acrisius. As usual, the oracle does not make a direct reply to the question which is asked. "You will have a daughter," replies the Pythia, "and this daughter will give birth to a son." That settles it. This grandson will be my successor on the throne of Argos. Relieved, Acrisius is on the point of leaving when suddenly the Pythia continues, "And this boy will kill you as soon as he reaches adulthood." Acrisius is distraught. A few months later, his wife, the queen, brings into the world a daughter. She is named Danae, in honor of the founder of the dynasty, Danaus, and his 50 daughters, the Danaids. Zeus had thrown the Danaids into Tartarus as punishment for the murder of their husbands. There, in the scorching steam of the underworld, the Danaids are doomed to pour water into a bottomless basin until the end of time. King Acrisius could assassinate Danae with his own hands, but the curse of the gods would be terrible. He does nothing. Danae grows up. At 15, she has become the prettiest girl in the kingdom of Argos. Naturally, prospective suitors hasten to the court. Each would like to win her hand. Acrisius, haunted by the thought of the prophecy from Delphi, will not hear a word about marriage. He even goes as far as to regularly pray that his daughter might die of natural causes. One day he moves into action. He orders the construction of a tower, a huge tower, within which he builds a prison, with walls and ceilings of bronze. Once the tower is finished, he invites Danae and her nurse to follow him. Neither of them imagines the terrible fate which awaits them. The two women go inside. The heavy door closes behind them. Danae lets out a cry of horror which nobody hears. Acrisius breathes a sigh of relief. He thinks the matter is settled. He is mistaken. Things hidden from the sight of men do not escape the gods' attention, and particularly that of Zeus. For a very long time now, the king of Olympus has been aware of Danae's beauty. He is in love with her. Zeus is always in love. He smiles when he sees Danae shut up in her bronze prison. It is the ideal moment to make his conquest. However, Zeus needs to take on another appearance because he knows that mortals may not contemplate a god in his divine form under penalty of death. Bull, swan, eagle, snake, Zeus is no stranger to metamorphosis. On this occasion, he decides to change himself into rain. Golden rain which slides through the joins in the tower, through the walls, and falls like a gentle caress upon Danae's slumbering body. The young girl immediately awakens. The whole room is illuminated. Drops of gold are falling from the ceiling. She dares not believe it. What if it was... Nine months pass. A boy is born. Danae names him Perseus. Fearing her father's fury, she hides the child as best she can. But it is impossible to stifle his cries. Intrigued, King Acrisius goes to the tower. That is undoubtedly a baby crying. Acrisius has the door opened. Yes, indeed, he is not mistaken. There really is a child in there. Perseus smiles at him, takes a couple of hesitant steps, and falls at his grandfather's feet. The terrified Danae hastens to explain that she is completely innocent, that it is Zeus transformed into rain who is the father of this child. Zeus? Acrisius doesn't believe a word of it. He turns upon the nurse. It must have been her who let a man into the prison. Mad with rage, Acrisius has the poor woman beheaded, along with the guards who were meant to watch the prisoners. But that in no way resolves the problem. What to do with Danae and the baby? Acrisius decides that it's best to put their destiny into the hands of the gods. Let them sort it out. He summons a carpenter, the best in the kingdom, and tells him to make a great wooden casket. When it's finished, he shuts Danae and Perseus inside and has it lowered into the ocean. This time, their prison will not just be four walls, but the whole maritime world. The casket drifts away, tossed around by the waves. This fragile shell should have sunk 1,000 times. But Zeus is watching over his son. The casket ends up in the vicinity of a little rocky island, the island of Seriphos. A fisherman sees it, but this is not just any fisherman. His name is Dictys, and he is of royal lineage. Dictys brings the casket ashore and discovers Danae and Perseus. Troubled by the beauty of the young woman, the fisherman decides to take in both mother and child and treat them as if they were of his own family. The years pass. Perseus becomes a strong and courageous young man. One morning, the king of the island, Polydectes, an infamous tyrant, bumps into Danae at a bend in the road. He immediately falls in love with her. An all-consuming passion for Danae quickly grows within Polydectes. He becomes obsessed by her. But well aware that for one thing his feelings are not returned, and for another that Perseus would make mincemeat of him if he tried to take Danae by force, he comes up with a strategy to separate the mother and son. A banquet. Polydectes organizes a banquet, and he has a good pretext: his marriage with a foreign princess by the name of Hippodamia. He tells everyone the news and demands that each young nobleman demonstrates his friendship by giving a luxurious present to his future wife, preferably a horse, and why not a whole stable, for the young woman is very keen on riding. "And you," he sneers at Perseus, "you who don't even have a shirt to call his own, what will you give me? You can't come to my banquet empty-handed." Cut to the quick, Perseus replies that he is willing to bring anything the king wishes. Anything? Perfect. "I want the Gorgon's head." The Gorgon's head? There is not one living being in the whole universe capable of such an exploit. Perseus will refuse, that's for sure. No, he accepts. An icy murmur spreads through the great throne room. Perseus is mad. He doesn't know what a terrifying monster this is. The Gorgon. In reality, there is not just one, but 3 Gorgons. 3 sisters: Stheno, Euryale, and Medusa. The first 2 are immortal. Only the third one, Medusa, can be beaten. A long time ago, the Gorgons were 3 young girls of legendary beauty. It was the goddess Athena who changed them into monsters because they dared to defy her. The Gorgons are terrifying creatures. They have golden wings attached to their shoulders, snakes coil out of their hair, and they can kill with a single look, instantly turning to stone anyone who dares look them in the eye. Polydectes is delighted. This pretentious little Perseus has stepped into the trap. But what Polydectes is unaware of is the young man's descendants. He is the son of Zeus. What's more, he is admired by numerous divinities, and in particular Hermes and Athena. And today, Athena sees in Perseus a way of finishing off her vengeance on the Gorgons. Perseus walks straight ahead. He hasn't the slightest idea where Medusa might be hiding. He doesn't know how to fight her either. At this very moment, Hermes appears before him. Hermes, god of messengers, son of Zeus. Hermes gives Perseus a silver shield. This is the goddess Athena's gift to him. Hermes also lends him his winged sandals. Then he hands him a special sack in which hunters put the game they have killed. And he adds one last present: a harp sword, a steel sickle capable of cutting through any material. Hermes advises Perseus to fly to a cave where 3 witches live. These 3 witches are known as the Graii. The Graii are the Gorgon's sisters, and they are equally monstrous. They are the only ones who know where Medusa can be found, but no one has ever dared venture inside their repulsive cavern. For the Graii are fearful to look at. People say they were born old. Their faces are no more than wrinkles and folds. Their yellowing skin is crumpled like old parchment. The most astonishing thing is that they have only one eye between them, which they pass around and use in turns, as they do with their one solitary tooth, which they use to devour their visitors. Hermes points a finger towards the west. Even though the Gorgons live across the ocean, beyond the world's frontiers at the doors of the night, the same cannot be said for the Graiai, who live in this world. With the winged sandals to guide him, Perseus crosses the wild blue yonder and soon finds himself at the entrance to the cavern where the three sisters hide. The son of Zeus must now pay very careful attention, for between the moment when one passes the eye to the other and the moment when the other receives it, there is a short lapse of time, a tiny crack which Perseus must infiltrate with the speed of an arrow. Perseus bides his time, and at the split second when the eye is between two of the creatures, he grabs it, snatching the tooth at the same moment. The Graiai scream with fury. They are suddenly blind and toothless. They are reduced to nothing. They implore Perseus. They are prepared to give him anything, they say, if only he will give them back the eye and the tooth. Perseus demands that they tell him where the Gorgons live and how to get there. They are only too eager to oblige. So the son of Danae and Zeus is at last flying towards the windy island where the monsters abide. All around, stone statues bear witness to the adventures of unfortunate warriors who dared brave the Gorgons. Horror can still be read in their expressions. The Gorgons are there. They are sleeping. For Perseus, the question is how to cut off Medusa's head without ever coming face to face with her. It seems like an impossible task. It is Athena who whispers the solution in his ear. Perseus takes the silver shield which the goddess gave him and fixes it upright in the earth. He uses it like a looking glass, or more precisely, like a rear-view mirror. At the moment when Medusa's terrible eyes, shining like moonstones, turn towards him, Perseus positions the shield such that his eyes cannot meet those of the Gorgon. Medusa is almost upon him, just a breath away. Perseus raises his sickle and severs the monster's head. With a terrible screech, Medusa collapses. Perseus stuffs the Gorgon's head in his sack and rushes out of the cave. Flying back home towards Polydectes Island, Perseus suddenly notices a young woman chained to a rock. It's Andromeda, the daughter of Queen Cassiopeia. She has been offered as a sacrifice to a sea monster which has devastated the region ever since the careless Cassiopeia was audacious enough to claim that she was more beautiful than all the nymphs of the ocean. To appease the monster sent by the susceptible Poseidon, an oracle has advised Cassiopeia to sacrifice her own daughter, the innocent Andromeda. The unfortunate girl is lamenting. Her moans reach Perseus. He hears her, he sees her. He is immediately seduced by her beauty. Out of the question to abandon her to her fate. Perseus goes and finds Queen Cassiopeia and promises to save her daughter if he can have her hand in marriage. Cassiopeia accepts. Perseus immediately returns to the place where Andromeda is attached to the rock, in the middle of the waves. Not a moment too soon, for the monster is cutting its way through the water towards the unhappy Andromeda. Once again, everything depends on a look. Remembering Athena's advice, Perseus positions himself between the sun and the sea, such that his shadow is projected across the surface of the water just in front of the beast's eyes. When it sees this shadow moving before it, the monster assumes that it must be its prey. It rushes towards the reflection, and at this very moment, Perseus, from high in the sky, flies down and kills it. Andromeda is saved. Perseus picks up his sack with the Gorgon's head inside. Accompanied by Andromeda, he finally arrives at Seriphos. But as soon as he lands, he learns that the infamous Polydectes never had any intention of marrying anyone other than Danae. He has profited from Perseus's absence to repeatedly try to force his mother's consent. Happily, Danae has found refuge in the temple of the goddess Hera. Perseus places Andromeda under the protection of Dictys and goes alone to the court of King Polydectes. Passing through the corridors, he penetrates the hall where Polydectes and his court are enjoying a huge feast. Silence falls when Perseus appears. Polydectes stares at him, dumbfounded. Perseus walks towards him. He measures him up without a word. Then he opens his sack and pulls out Medusa's head. In a slow movement, he raises it, being careful to turn his eyes away. In an instant, Polydectes and all his guests turn into stone statues. Perseus puts the head back in his sack and walks out, leaving behind him a petrified world. But the story is not over. There is still the grandfather, King Acrisius. Perseus has realized that if Acrisius behaved towards him as he did, shutting him in a casket and tossing him to the waves, it's because he was afraid of dying at his hands. He doesn't hold it against him. On the contrary, he wishes to find him and pardon him. So he sets out for Argos. Unfortunately, Perseus arrives too late. Hearing the rumors of the fabulous exploits accomplished by his grandson, but above all, hearing that he is heading for the kingdom, Acrisius has shown a clean pair of heels. But destiny alone decides upon the hour when the curtain must fall. A few days after his arrival in Argos, Perseus participates in games organized in his honor. The discus-throwing event arrives. There is a dense crowd, in the middle of which hides an old man with a gray beard. Perseus throws his discus. At that precise moment, a violent gust of wind alters its trajectory. It flies through the air and it hits the old man head-on, killing him instantly. It was Acrisius, king of Argos, Perseus's grandfather. Once again, the Oracle of Delphi has had the last word over those who try to stop her predictions from coming true.